So there are a few big things that I regret about my time in college. One of those I've already talked about, and another is why I wish I started research earlier. First, I'm going to step back and give a little background first. So I graduated from undergrad with a physics degree, and that was in December 2019, and I'm going to be starting grad school in physics in fall 2020, so that's next month. And during undergrad, I did a research project, and that was in physics, and that spanned about a year and a half, so 2 summers. And that started the summer before my junior year, right? So that project was quite successful. I learned different programming languages. I learned how to perform research relatively well. I got really good at self-reliance, sort of being able to rely on myself more than my professors in like my coursework and research, and a bunch of other skills and lessons and things that I learned that I still carry to this day that make me both, I think, a better student and a better researcher. So I don't regret it 1 ounce, really. It went really well, but I still wish I started research earlier. Okay, so this is because I recognize that there was a lot of time that I could have spent doing research. Like I had the summer before my sophomore year that I could have spent doing research or doing an internship. I was just working at Target during that time. And then my sophomore year that I could have spent doing some research as well, but I just focused on classes. So that may not seem like a lot of time, and maybe it isn't, but it's more than enough time to, say, do an internship and do a little bit of research, start on a little bit of research. And again, I didn't start research until the summer before my junior year. So speaking of internships, one of my biggest regrets is not doing an internship in undergrad. I hardly even thought about internships as a possibility back then, and I hardly even looked into them. But there are so many opportunities out there, like REUs in the US are a great example of internships, research experiences for undergraduates. There are other opportunities in the US, and obviously, of course, opportunities for internships outside the US as well. And, I didn't even know that RUs existed until near the end of my undergrad. So I really missed out on those. And, there's so many opportunities to do research in undergrad. And I really should have applied to some. Maybe I wouldn't have gotten any, but then again, I could have. And so one of my biggest regrets is not trying, really. So if you're an undergrad, or you will be, and you think there is at least a slim chance or even a really good chance that research is something that you're going to want to do, I suggest and recommend looking into internships and looking into REUs if you're in the US, and consider applying to those. And I do understand that you may not be able to do an internship. Say if you need to work to help pay tuition, or you need to take classes to graduate on time, or improve your grades. But I still suggest that you look into internships if you think research is something you might want to do, and just make that decision for yourself, because obviously I don't know your situation. So make that decision for yourself and consider doing one. It's really worth your time. And now that's just the decision to apply, because obviously you might not get an internship. That's always a possibility, unfortunately. But I am going to talk about a little bit about doing research at your university, because I didn't do an internship over undergrad, but I did do research at my university. So chances are, if you can't do an internship, you could probably do research at your university, which is great on its own, definitely. I think the time you have during undergrad is incredibly valuable. They're incredibly valuable periods of time, especially your summers. And so I think it's really important to go ahead and utilize those periods of time to gain skills and experience and things like that. So you may be thinking that you aren't ready to do research yet. Maybe you feel that you are unprepared. I started after my second year. I don't think that I learned that much in my first 2 years that prepared me for research at my university. And that's, in fact, I think that most of the classes that I took in my first 2 years weren't even related to my major. Those were general classes unrelated to my major that I was required to take by the university. And so it turns out that I didn't really have that many classes related to my major at the time. So that may not be the case for everyone in the world. It was for me, or everyone in the US where I'm at. But I believe that the best way to get ready for research is to not. As in, you just gotta start. Because I don't think classes can actually really prepare you for research. Maybe it depends on the class, so maybe I'm not completely right here. But at least in my experience, the classes that I took related to my major didn't prepare me whatsoever for research, because when I went into research, I had no idea what I was doing. I was completely confused. And so that's because I think research is not like classes with lectures and tests and homework. I think it's a lot different. And if you've done research, you probably agree with me. And so that's why I don't think classes can really help prepare you for research. So there is a bit of nuance here, because I did change from chemistry to physics between my second and third year. So I did change my major. So the major that you end up with at the end of undergrad may be different than the one that you did research in. So the area of study that your research is in, if you decide to do research early. I think this is still okay. So don't let that make you afraid to start early, because I think research experience is a research experience. There's bound to be skills, techniques, and lessons that you learn that are interdisciplinary. Things that, doesn't matter what field you end up in, they're going to be useful. For instance, I learned how to be more self-reliant thanks to my research. And so that's, a skill that is useful, being reliant on myself more than my professors, not relying too much on professors. That's a useful skill no matter what field you're in. So changing from chemistry to physics, I think if I learned that in chemistry, it would have been useful in physics. And if after my research I changed my major to, environmental science or, something else, that would have still been a useful skill. So I think there are bound to be skills like that, and you may learn different skills that are interdisciplinary and will be useful no matter what. So that they would be useful in many different avenues of your academic life and even maybe your personal life as well. So don't worry if you might change your major. You think you might change your major. Don't let that stop you from starting research early. And what else? So I think that research may actually help you to decide, maybe, whether or not your current major is right for you, right? If you think you're going to do research in that area, it may be useful to do research in that area. If you think you're going to do research later, that might help you decide. And so that's another reason to start research early, because it may actually help you. So I do firmly believe that you can start on research as early as you want. There's bound to be a research project out there that suits your skills and has enough room for you to grow. I think it's okay to go into research unprepared. That is what I did. I had no idea what I was doing in research when I started, and it wasn't easy, but I got through it. So, even if, it isn't easy in the beginning when you start research, research is not supposed to be easy, not one bit. It may even be true that no matter when you start, you're not going to know what you're doing. You're going to have a hard time. And that's especially because research is very different than coursework, like I said. So all in all, thinking that you're not prepared is not a good reason to not start research, right? A second thing you might be thinking is that you don't know yet if research is a thing that you want to do, right? If you think research is something you might want to do even a little bit, or you feel very confident that research is something that you want to do, I think it's important to start research early, right? The reason is that if you do a research project early on, it's either you hate it or you really, really love it and you want to continue. Or more rather, maybe a little less extreme, you don't really like it, but it might take you another summer, another semester or two to figure out if you really don't like it. Or you kind of like it and it's still going to take you another summer or another couple semesters to find out if you really like it. That was the case for me. I think, first off, I should say the less extreme version of that is probably more true. Maybe you will find out if you hate it or if you love it right away. Depends on the person. Personally, I just kind of liked it when I first started, but actually if I asked myself then, I probably wouldn't be able to answer because I wasn't really sure. I didn't hate it. I didn't dislike it, but I had no idea what I was doing. By the end of it, the first summer, I still didn't know what I was doing. But it took me a couple semesters and a summer of working on it full time. That was last summer, so summer of 2019, to really figure out that, I actually love research. I actually really like this. The freedom that it gives me, I love this. And so it took me a bit longer than it might take you, or maybe it'll take you longer, or maybe you'll only take a summer to figure it out. But I guess that's really down to you. So I didn't know that it was something I wanted to do after I graduated until, near the end of my undergrad career, when I did that last summer, that I figured out that, I really want to do this. So that's when I decided to go for grad school to do more research. So I don't expect that everyone will know that they want to continue or not just after one summer, but you might, right? It may take another research project or another semester or whatever to decide. So if you decide to stop, so you end up doing research early and you decide to stop, you might think that it was a waste of your time. If you did a summer of research and you just hated it and you're never going to do it again, it wasn't a waste of your time, even though you might think it was. It probably wasn't, because chances are you learned skills, techniques, lessons that you otherwise wouldn't have learned. And that's makes it useful and not makes it worthwhile. And also, you had done a research project. So besides the things you just learned, you'll be able to tell people that you did a research project. When you're applying to grad school or applying to a job, you'll be able to say, I did a research project, and you could say about how that makes you better or something. I don't think you should do research for that purpose. You shouldn't just do research just to put it on a resume. I don't think that's a very good idea. But it's just another reason why it would still be worth it, even if you decide to stop. And also, if you decide to stop early on, you did a research project and you're not going to continue, and you have the rest of your undergrad career to not worry about research. You don't have to worry about whether that's something you want to do. You'll have gotten that out of the way, and then you could focus on finding what you do like. And if you do find what you do like, you could focus on that the rest of your undergrad career. So getting it out of the way, that's another good reason to do research early. So then if you decide to continue, say you start research early and you're liking it, or maybe you love it and you decide to continue. This is wonderful, because then you made the decision to start early and you have the rest of the undergrad to do more research. You'll definitely have time to do an internship and another research project. For me, it was, I spent the rest of my undergrad just finishing the project that I started, but it ended up being a pretty big project. So by the end, you'll have a ton of experience that you'll be able to take to, the application for the next job you get, or for the application to grad school, and you'll be able to show off all the awesome skills, techniques, and lessons that you learned and all that. And you would have had your whole undergrad career, essentially, almost your whole undergrad career to, gain research experience. And so you're going to be able to look back and you're going to thank yourself that you made use of all your time. This is kind of the main point I'm trying to get at in this video, is that I wish I did that. It's one of the things I wish I did, yet I didn't. The thing is, I can't go back and change how I did undergrad and start research early. That's time I cannot get back. That's why I believe that time in undergrad is so precious. Such precious periods of time that you cannot get back, and you need to make use of it the most you can. That's why I think it's really important to start research early. Now, I do think it's important to start research early, but then again, you don't have to. I didn't start particularly early, but I ended up just fine. I ended up getting into a grad school in physics, and it's going to be great. And so it's okay if you don't, start early and make use of all your time, because it's probably going to be fine, and you're going to end up, if you work hard, you're going to end up going where you want to go, getting that job you want, going to that grad school you want. It may not be as easy, and maybe when you go to grad school, it might be a little bit harder if you don't have as much research under your belt, but you just got to work hard, and no matter what, you're going to have to work hard. So it's okay. So don't worry if you're watching this and you're not an undergrad anymore, or you're near the end and you didn't start early, or you didn't do a lot of research. It's okay. You can get through it. You have less time to start if you don't start early, but it's not the end of the world. You'll get through it. And even if you don't do any research, chances are you could still get into grad school or get a job. It's going to be harder. I know for grad schools, there's bound to be grad schools that'll take you even if you don't have research experience. There are definitely people out there who get to grad school to do a master's or a PhD and they haven't done research before. It's going to be harder for them, but they're going to be fine. They're going to get through it. It may be harder, but it'll be okay. So you shouldn't worry that you spent your first 3 or 4 years of undergrad just dilly-dallying and wasting your time. You're not going to get anywhere if you don't try. So I think you should still try to go for the things that you want to go for, even if you don't start early, like I'm saying you should. So if you are an undergrad, or you will be, and you haven't started research yet, and you're not sure when, I think you should consider starting now or as soon as you can. Because I think it's really important to make use of the time you have during undergrad. It's incredibly precious, and you can't get it back. So if you do, you might end up thanking yourself later. So if you're looking for advice on how to start research, if you're an undergrad and you want to start early and you want to get started on research and make the most use out of your time in undergrad, that's great. Or maybe you're late in undergrad, or whenever you are in undergrad and you want to start research, my suggestions would be first to go to your advisor and have a conversation and tell them that you want to do research, and ask them what that's like and what sorts of projects you might do, and go from there. And you can ask them what steps to take next. My other suggestions specifically about what you should do is to look at your university website and look at the different professors. Maybe they have individual websites. I know at my school they did, some of them. And see what research they do. See the description of their research. Maybe they'll have more detail on different projects that you might actually do. Some of them they describe that more on their website. And if you see anything that interests you, just email that professor and be like, "Hi, I am so-and-so. I'm interested in doing research. I'm an undergrad, and are you taking students right now? I like what you're researching, and I'm interested in doing research," and stuff like that. And then hopefully, if they are nice, and also if they are taking on students, they will respond happily and be like, "Yes, we can have a conversation, talk about my research," and then it'll just go from there. Just reaching out to a professor is the first step, and it's really easy. It may seem hard, and it's super nerve-wracking, but it's super easy. That's essentially what I did. I wish I looked on the website to see what professors were doing, but I just emailed a professor that I had for a class, and I said, "I'm interested in doing research, let's talk," I guess. I can't really remember what I said exactly. And he was like, "Yeah, let's talk," because, he takes on students. I didn't know that at the time. And then he described his research, and I thought it was interesting, and we just went from there, and that's when I went into my first summer of research. It was that easy. It was just sending out that email that, set that off. And so I just started doing research. So I think that's what you should do. And so, good luck. And that's all I have. So do you have a specific experience regarding undergrad research, or just undergrad in general? I'd love to hear that in the comments if you want to share that. And if you want to see more videos like this, I make physics and math videos and more vlog type videos like this. So if this is something that interests you and you want to see more, I'd suggest hitting the subscribe button. And if you liked it, hitting that like button as well. That helps me out. And that's all I have. Goodbye. All right.